Nicobar project, which Sajeev has spoken about so nicely, and I understood bits of what I will go into more details, is perhaps one of the biggest single infrastructure projects that has been conceived in India in recent decades. It is one project where the estimated budget today is $10 billion, 90,000 crores. So, of course, we have had very many big projects in this country, but I don't think anything matches up to that. And it becomes particularly concerning and particularly relevant because of where it is located, and that is what the story is going to be. So, let me just reiterate, deeply honored, thank you for inviting me and to consider me, good enough to be able to present on this platform. And thank you also very much for providing a platform for the voice of that island, because I think it is still something that we can do about. It is not, many people do feel very disappointed and very hopeless, but I do think there's a lot of hope. We can do something about it. So having said that, I will start with my PPT. I have about 45 minutes, is that okay, Robin? 45 minutes to 50 minutes. So I will take you through the journey of Great Nicobar. The first book we did was called The Great Nicobar Betrayal. And it's a very big word to use. Vishwasghat is a very strong word. We had a big discussion about it, but I will give you example after example, also what Sajeev showed of how there is a betrayal that is being done by our state, by our society, of some of the most vulnerable, some of the most beautiful, and some of the most precious things on this planet, not just this country. So this is a Great Nicobar Island, an island on the brink. That is what the presentation is going to be about. Like I said, thank you very much for having me here. This is a slightly overturned map, and I will come to the details. This is the island of Great Nicobar, with Campbell Bay as the administrative headquarters, and Indira Point, as we all know, to be the southernmost tip of India at about 6.5 degrees north latitude. The very interesting part of this discussion, if you have been following the debate, is its proximity to Sumatra. This is from Great Nicobar to Sumatra, is where the Malacca Straits are. So this is a small 40 kilometers, 50 kilometer wide patch of sea through which a large amount of the world's shipping traffic passes. And Great Nicobar sits right just on top of that. So you can imagine it is a good location to be able to mobilize the strategic and other possibilities. That is the primary logic, both economic and strategic, and we will come to that. But this is the context of the presentation today. So just for, most of you would know, but we are sitting here somewhere in Kerala. Port Blair is here, which is in the Andaman Islands. I am coming from Bombay, which is on the other side. And perhaps for people in Bombay and Delhi, Great Nicobar, if you draw a circle around that place, there is no place further in India from Great Nicobar. It's the furthest part of India for many people in this country. So it's really far away. And I think also a bit far away from our imagination. But we have the Andaman Islands in the north. We have the Nicobar Island. Is there a scale or something? Can somebody give me a pen or a stick? Maybe from downstairs it will help too. Yeah. So here is the Andaman Islands, the Nicobar. And I think the ma'am mentioned that or Sajeev mentioned we only talk about the Andamans, but actually it is Andaman and Nicobar. They are two different places. They have two different identities. And sometimes Andaman subsumes the identity of Nicobar. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. This is the island of Great Nicobar, which is 6.5 degrees north latitude, which is the southernmost tip of India. And this is where the Malacca Straits, are. And I just want to point to one particular element which I would like to pay your attention to, is this star, which is off the coast of Sumatra. This is the star of the place called Banda Aceh. And this, we will come to this little later, this is the epicenter of the earthquake of December 2004. The earthquake that caused that massive tsunami, and I think the Kerala coast was also very badly hit, happened just about 50 kilometers from the Great Nicobar Island, and that's a very important thing, and many things happened because of that, very interesting things that I would like to share with you. This is the heart of what the project proposes, and this is what is proposed. This is the island of Great Nicobar, 920 square kilometers of, believe me, some of the finest forests you will see anywhere else on the planet. And the very interesting and important thing is that the human population here is very limited. It's only about 7,000 as per the last census. of which about 1,000 people are divided between two tribal communities. One is an ST and one is a PVTG. I'll talk about that. And the other 6,000-7,000 people are actually settlers who have gone from mainland India to settle in that particular place. This project is on 4 parts on the island of Great Nicobar. At the heart of this is this massive transshipment port, which all people in Kerala now know very well about. Transshipment port has become the part of the debate over here for the last many years. Is of 48,000. Half the investment is proposed in this particular port project, which is in an incredibly beautiful bay known as Galathia. This is about 9 square kilometers of a bay, and like Sajid mentioned, this was a wildlife sanctuary in 2021 because this has some of the most important nesting sites of the leatherback turtle, of the Nicobari megapode, and a lot of other corals and things like that. So at 1 is the port, at 2 there is an airport, and 3 is a 130 square kilometers new township in what is primarily undisturbed tropical evergreen old growth rainforest. And the government estimates say that they will cut at least 1 million trees. 10 lakh trees is the official number mentioned in Parliament that will be cut for this project. Scientists have said this number could be at least 10 times more. So in today's times of climate change and in some of the best forests, we are talking of cutting between 3 million, 30 lakhs to 1 crore trees for this particular project. And then there is a airport that is also going to come up. So this is a 4-component massive project of which the port, like I said, is the main. Now the issues of concern of which I will go over are actually across all the axes that you can think of. There is the ecological, there is the geological, I mentioned the earthquake to you, there is the indigenous people, there is the economic question that has to be asked. If somebody is going to invest almost 1 lakh crores, who is investing, what is going to be the investment, who is going to pay the cost? All these questions are open questions, and if there are people here who are interested in research, economics, finance, these are very important questions still to be answered because we don't have the answers. There are very serious questions on legal and due process. So what has happened in this case, very interestingly, is all the boxes have been ticked. So you can imagine a 80,000 crore project has been approved within 2 years of the proposal coming into the public domain. Imagine the complexity. So if anybody says that in India the system is not efficient, I would like you to tell them of this example of how all governments, departments, all agencies have come together, and one of the biggest projects has been cleared almost overnight. Within less than 2 years, you have cleared one of the biggest projects ever thought of in India, and there are serious processes, serious issues where legal and due process is concerned, and I will share some of that with you. Now, this is a very, very interesting and important picture. This is a picture of the lighthouse of Indira Point. This is a picture of the southernmost point of India, and there would be a question as to why does the lighthouse stand in water. This lighthouse was not built in water. This lighthouse stands in water because of a certain geological reality and a geological incident which I will talk to you about. But for now, I would this is really a very, very important marker of the history of those islands and why we have to be deeply concerned about what is being proposed at the moment over there. I will come to the details of this lighthouse a little later, but I would like you to keep this in mind and think about why is a lighthouse standing in water and what are the implications of a lighthouse standing inside water. But before I go there, I just want to give you a little snapshot of the islands. This is the southernmost tip of India. So we have the southernmost Kirana ka Dukan. The southernmost general store of India is found in Great Nicobar Island. I think the Mallus believe that they went to every place first, right? But here I think there are others also. In this case, it is a Sikh family, Sardarji family, who put up this shop. This is a pre-tsunami shop. It got washed away in the tsunami. But I thought I'd just give you a sense of what the place is, and that some people do have a good sense of geography. So in the southernmost landmass of India, we have the southernmost Kirana ka Dukan. Beyond this, there was no shop to buy anything. This is a 2002 picture. Just give you glimpses of the absolutely spectacular beauty of this island. These are in the Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve. These are these single stands of tree ferns which go up to 30 feet in the sky, and they have these fantastic forests of tree ferns. And you can see this is a picture, again this may be a 15-year-old picture I had taken just after the tsunami. If you look up in the sky, this is the canopy of the rainforest. This is the canopy of the tree fern forest. It's almost like somebody threw a stone in the sky and it created the ripples that you do in the water. Or it's like a spider's web that the forest has created. This is the kind of absolutely unprecedented wealth we have in these islands. On the ground, these are small, I forget the scientific name, but a small fungus, like a little cup. So, the ecology of a forest, many of you would understand how integral and important, and this is a largely undisturbed forest by any human activity. There's very minimal settlers and then of course the tribal community. So we have a very rich forest ecosystem, a very diverse forest ecosystem. This is what Sajeev was mentioning, a very unique bird known as the Nicobari megapode. The name itself has Nicobar. It is found only in the Nicobar Islands, nowhere else on this planet. And it has some of the most interesting breeding behavior. It breeds like reptiles breed. It makes a mound of earth, and I think Sajeev mentioned some of that. And it lays its eggs inside a mound of earth. It does not incubate the eggs. The eggs are incubated by the heat of the sun and the heat of the decaying matter. So this actually is an evolutionary connection between reptiles and mammals, because the behavior is like, the breeding behavior is like of a reptile, but this is actually a bird, it is not a reptile. So we have a very interesting, and this is just one example of some of the rarest birds and things like that that you find on this planet. So this is a tractor that has gone, somebody has driven a tractor into the ocean. Is it? Or tractor has come from the ocean. This is the tracks of a giant leatherback turtle, the one that Sajeev was mentioning. Local language, it is called tractor kachwa, because the tracks are so wide that it actually looks like sort of, I think it's a very smart audience here. Some younger people will say, yes sir, a tractor, somebody, why stupid fellow has gone with a tractor into the sea. But these are the tracks of the giant leatherback turtle, whose only nesting ground in India is in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And if I am not mistaken, the only place that they used to nest on the mainland in India was the Kerala coast. And the last records are from the 1950s. This is one of the most amazing creatures on this planet. It is the largest of 7 species of sea turtles. It can grow up to 6 feet in length. It is 600 kilograms in weight. And it nests in only a few places on the planet. It is the deepest diving turtle. It goes to the most northern latitudes. And they come and nest on the beaches of the Great Nicobar Island and the other islands. And its most important beach in the Andaman and Nicobar Island is going to be destroyed because of the port, and I will come and I will show those details. This is the giant leatherback female, huge creature. So let me come to Galathea Bay. Now this is at the heart, I mentioned to you in the earlier slide. This is a 9 square kilometer bay, which is at the heart of the project. The port project is going, this is a map of Google map of Galathea Bay from 3 months ago. Just look how beautiful, pristine and untouched it is. Now imagine putting in 50,000 crores of concrete and ships, and what is going to remain in this place. Now this is, I call it the con, because again and again you see so many violations, I give you violations of how this absolutely pristine bay is now today available for the construction of a port in the violation of multiple laws of this country. So what we have in Galathea Bay, this is the point, Indra Point, just north of that, there is a river Galathea that enters into the bay, and it forms an absolutely spectacular 2.5 kilometer beach of white sand on which the leatherback turtles come and nest. There are 3 other species also that nest over here. In the forest over here we have the megapodes, there are mangroves over here. So this is also, you will recognize very well in Kerala, this is also CRZ1A, which is the maximum protection under the Indian law, where no development can be allowed. So presence of coral reefs, presence of turtle nesting sites, mangroves, saltwater crocodiles, ground nesting birds, seagrass beds, all of this means that this is a CRZ1 site, but this is where the port has been approved. Now this is just a closer up of that. You can see the river entering over here, and this is that absolutely lovely beach on which turtles nest. And imagine giant leatherback is 600 to 700 kilograms of weight. So it requires particular ecological characteristics for the sand to be soft, for the gradient of the beach to not be too much, to be able to nest in that particular place. The leatherback cannot nest on any other beaches where the olive ridley and other turtles nest. There are very specific ecological characteristics that are needed. So this is a story of 2021, before the project proposal came into being. Like Sajeev mentioned, in 1997, this was declared a wildlife sanctuary because we have giant leatherbacks, we have all these creatures I told you about. So this part of the coast and this line, the yellow, the beach, the bay, there about 13 square kilometer area was declared as a wildlife sanctuary in 1997. Now, this, like I said, has mangroves, corals, turtle nesting sites, so it's also CRZ1A. So these are two legal categories which are very important. The presence of which means that a port cannot be constructed here by law. So what do you think is the solution for that? This is the port plan. The same bay. You can see this is the bay, the river coming. This is a 3-kilometer wide opening of the bay today. Imagine being a turtle wanting to nest on the beach. You have a 3-kilometer wide opening to be able to negotiate and enter into your nesting site. Now with the coming of the port, you will have to construct a breakwater, obviously. So the breakwater will reduce the opening of the mouth from 3 kilometers to just 300 meters. So a land leatherback turtle and all the other creatures are able to have a 3-kilometer door to enter their home will now be restricted to only 10% of that. In a situation like this, how is it possible that the turtles will continue to nest over here, which is what, and like Sajeev again mentioned, some of India's leading scientific institutions, including the WI, has said, please go ahead, construct the port, we will ensure that the turtles come to nest over here. How is it possible? It's a complete scientific lie. Because not only will the access be restricted, now imagine the operation of a port over here. Ships are coming in and out, there is light, sound, oil pollution. There is no chance in hell that the turtles will ever reach their nesting ground. So this is what we are talking about. So how was this done? These are the minutes. See, 5th of January, a meeting was held in the National Board for Wildlife. Keep in mind, the project was approved, came into the public domain only in March. Before the project proposal became public, in the Ministry of Environment and Forest, in the National Board for Wildlife, a meeting was held of the standing committee and they denotified the wildlife sanctuary. Because if you do not denotify the wildlife sanctuary by law, you cannot allow for a project to come over there. So before the project has become public, the government institutions have been in action and they have denotified the sanctuary. So now you can say, see, nothing has changed ecologically. The turtles are still nesting. This year, and I wrote a piece for the scroll, we have seen the highest leatherback nesting in the history of nesting on that beach. 1,000 turtles in one nesting season have nested. Leatherback turtles have nested on Galathea, which has never happened in the history of recorded scientific research over there. So, but you have to denotify that. And it's very interesting what the director of the Wildlife Institute of India said. He said, to facilitate leatherback and other turtles to continuously nest, connectivity between the river and the bay should be ensured. This is not a freshwater turtle. This is a sea turtle. Even if you don't have a river, even if you don't maintain, the turtle is not coming from the land. It is coming from the sea. So there is no logical, scientific logic to say that you maintain the connectivity between the river and the bay. It is not relevant. The turtle is coming from the ocean. What you are doing, which they are not talking about, is you are blocking by 90% the opening of the bay when the port will come. So this is the scientific evidence given statutory body by which the port has, the wildlife sanctuary was denotified. This has happened in 2021. Interestingly, before the project came into the public domain. Look at the thinking and the planning and the coordination that is going on. So there you are. This is the same map. Now the wildlife sanctuary is gone. These are the berths of the port. This is the, like I showed you. So you have a 300-meter opening. So okay, wildlife sanctuary is gone. But it is still CRZ1A, right? You still have turtles nesting. This blue line is 20,000 coral colonies as per the ZSI and as per the report in the Environment Impact Assessment document. And then you have crocodiles, you have mangroves. So this is still CRZ1A. So what do? Can you guess? It is the most shocking thing that is actually happening. So, and also let me just give you this example of why this is CRZ1A. Because in 1990 to 2018, Galathea Bay has about 200 nestings of just the giant leatherback, because it is one of the most important. In 2022 and 2024, it is 600 turtles are nesting over there. So even as we speak, the number of the giant leatherbacks nesting on Galathea is increasing, which means automatically this is CRZ1A. If you look at the coastal zone regulation, including the island coastal zone regulation, it very clearly says in so many words, any area with turtle nesting site, mangroves, ground nesting birds, coral reefs is CRZ1A. CRZ1A means no port can come up. So you have to change the category of that land, or the land remains the same. It is like saying in Delhi, there is no Yamuna anymore, because the government has said, one scientific institution has given a map and something worse has happened over here. So what happens is, there is in Chennai, there is a National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management, who are authorized bodies to make the coastal zone maps for all the country, and over the last few years, they have been doing magic in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Recently, the NGT passed an order, some of you may have followed, dismissing concerns about the project, in which there was a high part committee. It's a very interesting story, but I just cut the story short. The high part committee asked the NCSM, the National Sustainable, the Coastal Sustainable, whatever, to do a survey, and they submitted a report saying construction of a port is permissible in CRZ 1B, but not permissible in CRZ 1A. So it is concluded that no part of the project is falling under CRZ 1A. Please make sense, or it makes complete sense. This is a submission to a statutory, to a legal entity, saying this is not CRZ 1A anymore, but the evidence is completely different. So, Gayab, gone. Wildlife sanctuary gone. CRZ 1A gone. Port allowed. Simple. How easy. Now, I'll come to the other part later, but as like I was saying, these turtles, these are satellite track turtles by Indian Institute of Science and the Forest Department, and they are swimming as far as Madagascar and the Australian coast. So, we think of making relationships with other countries and other, but these creatures from time immemorial have already connected these land masses. They have deep connections which we don't understand. It's almost like, umbilical, much before we came into the picture. This creature has been there since the time of the dinosaurs. So they are connected, and we will destroy the most important nesting site in those islands. How Nicobar's corals disappeared from government maps. There is a story by Vaishnavi Rathod in school. Look at this. Same institution, National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management, 2020 map. Look at this map. This is Galathea Bay, and you can see these yellow dots. These are all coral reefs in the map of 2020. 2020 is also before the project proposal is made, which is 2021. So this is CRZ 1A. This actually is a wildlife sanctuary, because in 2020 this was still a wildlife sanctuary. But if it's a wildlife sanctuary, if there are corals, we can't have the port. So what happens? 2021, official map, corals gone, clean. You make out, right? You can see at the back. Every single evidence of coral is vanished. All those corals is not very evident in the map, but have come up over here. I don't know if it's visible, but if you look at this map, this area is blank. All the corals are along the coast. In 2021, one day all the corals decided that this is not the place for us to be. So in unison, they have all moved over here. This is scientifically not possible because the bathymetry is not right. The Nicobar Islands are what are known as fringing reefs. They cannot be found over there. So one of the most stunning scientific frauds is this. And this is the basis for them then to say that this place, turtles don't nest, corals are not there, so we can easily change the category and we can have a port project in that particular place. So here are the comparative. Yeah, now you can see this. Look at this 2020 map. You can see corals all along the coast. Here they are all gone, gayab, and they've all come up over. Stunning actually what they've done. Absolutely stunning. Same is with coral, with the turtles. So I say messages have gone out to the turtles. Don't come anymore. But turtles have planned that no, we will come in larger numbers. So this year in March, this is a story I did for the school. There's a record of at least 1,000 leatherbacks coming to nest on Galathea Bay. The very month of February, when the NGT passed an order saying we can go ahead and construct the port, more and more turtles were coming to the island to nest. It's almost like, I don't believe in it, but maybe divine intervention is happening. Turtles are, I know that's not right, but you cannot simply say that this is not CRZ1. This is the most important nesting site. These are the, you can see this, 900, 13th of February 2026, OR is olive ridley, 899 leatherback, and then there is, so this is a photograph from the turtle hatchery of March, early March, in which all the eggs are put in the turtle hatchery. It must be happening on the Kerala coast as well. And these are the numbers. So this is Forest Department evidence of the nesting that is taking place. So, it goes on and on and on like this. I'll give you a couple of examples of the EIA report. We all know, many of you would know what a sham the EIA report is. But let me just flag this. This is 80,000, 90,000 crores of investment. One of the biggest projects ever thought. Imagine how much detail and care should have gone into the EIA report. I'll give you just two examples of how shoddy and how poorly that report is done, and you will understand and you will agree with what I'm trying to say. Also, there were many issues with how the EIA was done. Public hearing was held at the height of the COVID pandemic. Now, what was the reason in 2021 or 2020 to hold a public hearing at the height of the COVID pandemic is somebody that completely beats us. What is the hurry? What is the chance that people can participate and why the risk? But anyway, here is the language from the EIA report. It says, invisible streams under thick carpet of dead leaves and twigs. Added to the problem was biting insects including mosquitoes. Further, when one tries to look upwards to find out what tree it is not just one but many. It was impossible to use any measuring devices like tape to make quadrate in the forest vegetation. Hence, intensive survey was carried out on both sides of the road for 45 kilometers. Children in our schools will write a better report than this. Right? And I keep saying that this may be 1 million trees, maybe 5 million trees. The most prestigious, precious, invaluable forest and island ecosystem in this country. And this is the shoddy work that we do. This is the basis on which the Government of India, Ministry of Environment has given environmental clearance. It is shocking. It is absolutely pathetic. Look at this. They are saying installation of deflectors to be done to clear turtles. There is a turtle nesting area. Ships or boats will not enter the turtle. This is all in the... So these are, again you might be aware that in the environmental clearance, there is something called environmental clearance conditions. But if you look at the conditions, these are conditions that are illogical. They cannot be implemented. So it's a meaningless clearance condition. For example, look at this. It says, no trees will be cut at one go. All trees that are exceptionally tall and old shall be safeguarded. So what is an exceptionally tall tree? Robin, are you exceptionally old? He looks exceptionally old, but he's not. So what is the meaning of an exceptionally tall tree scientifically? And what is the meaning of an exceptionally old tree scientifically? And then they say, shall be safeguarded as far as possible. So I will say it is not possible, so then cut it. So what kind of environmental clearance, what a sham this is what I want to point to you. So similarly, if you look at condition number 16, it says trees with nesting holes of endemic owls to be identified and geotagged. Such trees shall be safeguarded as far as possible. So it's not possible. Now I'm sure there are bird watchers here. How many times do we get to see an owl? How many times do we get to see the nesting hole of an owl? And in a forest, 130 square kilometers, few million trees, where trees go up to 150 feet in the sky, how are you going to find the nesting hole of an endemic owl? I actually wrote an article for the Hindustan Times that if we give 10 of our best bird watchers 6 months of time to only go and study the Nicobar forest, this forest, to find out nesting holes, because other 6 months is rain and you can't look for birds, they will take 10 years to just go from every tree to the other tree if you're looking at 1 million trees. Just to find out, if you spend 5 minutes on one tree, 150 foot tree, what I'm trying to say, these are meaningless environmental clearance conditions which primarily is suggesting go ahead and deforest and get the project approved. Like I was saying, this is a forest that even today we are finding new species of birds and reptiles. In the last 5 years, we have just done a secondary review of literature. 15 new species have been found, right from mollusks to a bird, which is a very rare thing in today's world. And this is not the full research. This is an area that has not been researched at all. And we even don't know what is there in the literature. You are sitting the category of the known unknown and the category of the unknown unknown. We don't know what is in these forests. We don't know. This was a bird described in November of 2025. This is a piece I wrote for the Hindu in 2025. In the month of November 2025, one snake and one bird, 2 new species. These are big taxa. Sajid will understand, and I'm sure many of you will know. Smaller insects and all that, okay, but one bird and snake to find is not rare at all. It's not common at all. It's extremely rare. So we are talking of a treasure house, and this is in the area where the part of the island where the project is coming up. It is not outside that, and we don't know what the ripple effects of that will be. This is the snake, Lycodon irvini, a type of bull snake found in Great Nicobar from the project site, scientifically published in November of 2025. 2 weeks ago, there was an arthropod that was described and it was reported in the newspaper. So we don't know what is there in these forests. They are going to destroy these forests. This is the bird. This is a new bird that has not even been described. We don't have the material, so but this is proposed to be a new bird to science, which is found likely to be called the Great Nicobar crake, but found only in Great Nicobar Island. See, these are the spots. If you remember the map earlier, it has been found in these places because bird watchers can go here. We have not gone to the other part of the forest. But this is all the area where the project is coming. So, we'll lose substantial amount of. I come quickly to the tribal part because there's not much time. Now, we have a community here, two communities who have been here for thousands of years. The Shompen are a PVT. And in the Andaman Island, there's an administration body called the Andaman and Nicobar Tribal Welfare Agency. And this is a letter written by the Director Tribal Welfare to the project proponents saying, if you want land of the tribals for the project, we will make it available for you. So that body which is statutorily mandated for the protection and the welfare of the tribal communities, the friends eating up the farm, that person whom you trust to protect you is the one who becomes the biggest violator of your rights. So many such examples are there in these islands. And also think about it. Today there are only 1,000 tribals. Today there are 8,000 people. The proposal in the project is to, first it was 6 lakhs, is to bring 3.5 lakh people from outside to this island. So just imagine the proportion of one tribal to the outsider will increase by 4,000%. What chance is there of they being able to continue their lives and culture? They'll get wiped out, right? Disease, culture, takeover of land, takeover of resources. So it's absolutely problematic. And I'll come to this later. But serious problems with this master plan that is now being put out. This is how the numbers are going to increase. So when we raise concerns about, when so many outsiders will come, what will happen to the interaction with the tribal people? So the government proposal is we will put barbed wire fences and separate the tribal population from the settlers, from the outsiders. It's such a strange way of looking at communities, looking at the interactions that will happen. There's no way going to stop. But the mentality and the thinking is so limited, it's shallow, that you think you can separate two communities by barbed wires, and by putting a barbed wire, you can say that you're protecting the tribal community. That's the sad part of the whole thing. I'll come to the Forest Rights Act, because that's one of the biggest and the most important legislation, and you can imagine if it's a PVTG, how important it is. This is a table of the history of the Forest Rights Act. So, the act, as you know, was promulgated in somewhere 2006-2007. For 14 years, the Andaman and Nicobar administration said that these are already tribal lands and all the tribals in the Andaman Islands have their own territories protected. So we need not do any process for the settlement of rights of the tribal community as per the provisions of the FRA. But once the project was approved, there are certain provisions by which the formality has to be done under the Forest Rights Act and under the Forest Clearance and by the Environment Ministry, where you have to complete the procedure and say that you have settled the rights under the FRA. So, what did not happen between 2007 and 2022, because it was in 2022 that the environment and forest clearance were granted. In the case of the Nicobar Islands, the process was completed in 22 days. Something that was not done for 14 years was done in 22 days through a completely fraudulent process where Gram Sabha meetings were held in which the tribals of people who are not tribals, who have no right under the FRA, where representation was inappropriate, where the government agency is representing the PVTG, which is not allowed, there is no provision for that in the FRA. But now you are saying that the ROFR, the right to forest listing, has been granted, and now the clearance is there, you can go. So, the betrayal, whether it's about the turtles or the Adivasi community, is absolutely stark and keeps coming up again and again and again. The Nicobar Tribal Council, which is quite active, has actually publicly taken a position and they are saying that we don't want the project. They are saying we are being pressured to give up our land, but that is the reality of the place and the time. Last, I come to this very important aspect, and I'll go back to that lighthouse. We are sitting in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands in what is known as the Ring of Fire, and again it was mentioned in the introductory remarks. This is the world's most tectonically active zone. So the earthquake that happened 2 days ago, which you must have seen in Philippines, has happened around the Arc of Fire. So all across the Pacific, the coast of the Americas and down into Japan and East Asia, it is the Ring of Fire, and the Andaman and Nicobar Islands are in the Ring of Fire. The only active volcano in India is in the Andaman Island, which is Barren Island. So we are in a very tectonically active zone. This is seismic zone 5. We have one earthquake a week on an average in these islands. Now imagine the impact that will be if you have another earthquake there. And this is what happened, and this links up to the picture I was showing you earlier. In 2004, when the tsunami happened, the earthquake of 9.3 on the Richter scale happened only 100 kilometers from the coast of Great Nicobar. It happened on the coast of Sumatra. And if you look at my hand, Andaman's in the north, Nicobar in the south. Like a child seesaw goes up and down, the Andaman Islands came up that morning by 5 feet. And Nicobar Island, Great Nicobar, saw permanent subsidence of 15 feet that morning. So if we were on the Great Nicobar coast in this building, standing over here, the moment the earthquake happened, we would be surrounded by water around our ankles. The land just sank because of the tectonic activity. And this is very stark images of the central Nicobars. You will see, this is an image, NRSA image, National Remote Sensing Agency image of December 2004, 21st December, 5 days before earthquake and tsunami. And that image on the right is 26th of December, the evening of the tsunami. And you see this patch in the circle, this is in an island called Kachal. The red, which is land above the high tide line, is now land submerged by water. Maximum number of people died in the Nicobar Islands because not of the tsunami, it is because of the combination of the earthquake, the subsidence, and the tsunami that took place. And you can imagine what happened in Great Nicobar. This is what I was telling you in the beginning. The picture on the top is a picture of the Great Nicobar Island lighthouse today. It is standing surrounded by water. This picture is of the same lighthouse before 2004, and you will see this is far above the high tide line. What happened in 2004 is the land subsided. So what was sea over here has become sea over here. Now imagine this is the displacement of land that has taken place, 15 feet. Now construct a port over here. Another earthquake, land goes up or land goes down, and it is gone. It is no more a port. And very interestingly, you will see over here, this is a statement by the IIT Kanpur, which says 3 to 4 meters of permanent subsidence of land. And in 2019, WAPCOS, which is a Government of India agency, says the topography of this land was not much damaged by the tsunami. It is best suited for a port project. The government agency saying that. So, how can this not be damaged land? What is damaged coastline then? Very sincere, deep concerns that we have questions to ask. This is a recent map where there was a tsunami warning for these islands. Now, I will quickly wrap up because there's not much time, but there has been a lot of discussion and argument on it is important strategically, it is important economically, but there's a lot of evidence to show that the numbers don't add up. Economically, it is not going to work. So this is a article by a former defense man saying that the port-led development of Great Nicobar is a mirage. It is not going to give you the business that you're kind of talking about. All of this in the public domain, I can share that with you if you're interested. This is a story that came in the front line in an issue that I helped edit by very well-known journalist Rajshekhar, who writes some brilliant work. He went to the islands and he's writing this, he's saying the numbers don't add up. This 40,000 crore investment, how will the shipping traffic come? And again, Kerala knows this very well. What is transshipment traffic coming? Where will it come from? What is the tariffs? What is the value of the cargo? What is the number of ships that will come? How much cargo will be transmitted? So whether the tariff regimes, etc., will match up, and he says that it's going to be a complete financial disaster. Even now the government has decided to give it viability gap funding, because that means that a private party cannot actually invest and recover money on their own. That's what it suggests. There are many things to be said about, but I will kind of, in the interest of time, I will go ahead to again mention, go to this whole problem of, this compensatory afforestation. It's almost like I was thinking what example to give. There's a woman with, apologies if I'm being a little sexist, but there's a woman with great, beautiful, long hair, and you tell her, no, I will cut your hair. Your hair has to be shaved. Oh, but then what? No, we will put hair on Robin's head. Robin is looking nice with bald head, right? And madam has got nice long hair. Why do you want to shift madam's hair to Robin's head? That is what is happening. How can you cut a pristine tropical evergreen forest and say, we will compensate for it 2000 kilometers away in Haryana? Serious problems are there. I mean, ecological problem, logistical problem, it is completely illogical. But it is allowed. And the very interesting thing is, 130 square kilometers of Nicobar, 260 square kilometers in Haryana has been declared a forest. So, this is land in Haryana which has been declared forest. So, something that has not been investigated. I am asking all my journalist friends, what is this 260 square kilometers of land in Haryana that has in one night become forest? It may be private land, it may be common grazing, it might be somebody's forest. All those rights will go away. All those people who are grazing their cattle, who are doing economic activity, or maybe it is forest land anyway. So, it's such a fraud at such a large level. You are destroying the best forest far away, and you are planting hair on Robin's head, sorry Robin, or anybody who is bald over it. It doesn't make sense at all. And why should they? A person with long hair is a person with long hair. It's beautiful for that. You cannot change it accordingly. This is the kind of absolute bizarre things that are happening. And that land is also being sold off in Haryana. The great Indian administrative show. Land that is given for compensatory afforestation has been sold for mining in Haryana. So the story goes on. So this is like, you do all your papam, no? Now this is your Ganga Snan. You have cut the forest, now your transplantation or compensatory afforestation in Haryana is cleaning of all your sins, all your papam. It's like Ganga Snanam for all these people. And we might have a new species of a bird called the Haryanvi megapode. Anything, if the corals can go like this is quite possible. And there's no reason why we will not have a new, if you look at what the Indian scientific establishment has done now, Sajid, this is very much possible. If you can make 20,000 coral colonies disappear scientifically, what is a new species of bird? And how difficult is it to change a name any day today in India? You can call anything. So the joke actually is on us. It is a tragedy of our scientific institutions, of our governance institutions, that what is happening in Nicobar. And I've just given you a small snapshot. Every day we are getting new information. Every day we are getting even more insight of what is going on in that place. So, like Sajid mentioned, ZSI wants to transplant corals from Galathea Bay to the other side. But there are no corals to transplant. The Chennai institution has already transplanted them. Why are you wasting public money? Whom are you fooling? Who is fooling whom? And for what? Very, very serious questions. $10 billion, 1 lakh crore. I just keep saying that. The most pristine tropical evergreen forest, tectonically active. Why are we doing this? It's something that completely beats me. So, okay, I come to my end of my talk. What we have done in the last 4-5 years is to make very detailed documentation of this. And if we have made one big contribution, it is this. We made a very detailed timeline of the project. It's a PDF document that you can access through this QR code if anybody wants to do that. We have we just updated this 2 months ago. There are 350 dates in the life of the project. Every single thing that happened in the project. The day the meeting was held, the day the minutes were released, the day a certain document was done, the day the EI report was published, the day the report was released, the day the hearing was happening in the NGT. Every single event has been documented, and each date takes you to a Google Drive in which you will get the original document. So there are maybe 1,000 documents, thousands of pages, Everything that you need to know about the project is available in this document. And you can imagine, because the scale is so much, there is so much that is happening. And we did this because we ourselves could not handle either the information or the requests that were coming. Lots of journalists, researchers, friends were saying, oh, okay, you said this, give us this report. Tell us where the EI report is. Yeah. Rather than sending to them every time, we made this very detailed document, which has now become a standard reference. Even the government does not have these documents. Every single document is available. Please access it, please use it for whatever you want. You can take the QR, you can also write to me. This is how the timeline looks. So, for example, March 21 is when AECOM publishes the report. Then there is the meeting of the Environmental Appraisal Committee. And we've also tried to do color coding. So these are project documents, these are legal processes, and each of these in the PDF can be clicked and they take you to the original document. So if you click this, you will get the 120-page original proposal and you can have a look at it. So this is something that we have put out in the public domain. We also did, it is not very well done, but a very detailed website which is an archive of Great Nicobar Island, going back 200 years. So all the documents that were there in the public domain, going back to British and pre-British times, very interesting studies about the Champagne, about the Galatia River. There are PhD theses. Again, a few thousand documents are all available on this website. So if there are any researchers, any professors, anybody who is interested, the website is not very well organized, but all the information is available over there. This is the QR code for that if anybody is interested in taking it. And you can, it's very simple, it's greatnicobar.org. So you can also just type it and find it and you will get it. You can always write to me and I will send it to you. I just wait for a minute if people want to take that picture. And then this is the other thing I've done. We created two WhatsApp groups for people who are interested in getting information on the project. Now this is one of the most undemocratic WhatsApp group on the planet. I am the only one who can post. You're free to join, you're free to leave. You cannot make a single comment on this WhatsApp, which is why it is working. We have 1,200 people on this for the last 1 year and only about 20 have left. So please feel free to join. There is no spamming. If there's spam, you can always leave. But there's a lot of information I am posting on a daily basis on what is happening on the project. So everything on a daily basis. So some people say, is this the only thing you're doing? Are you doing some job or something also? So I'm on the verge of losing my job also if this continues. But do feel free to join this. You'll get all the information. It has become a very, very useful source of connecting people. Many people from all over the world have joined and different sets of people are interested. So as a means of communication, it's very simple, but I think this is also a way that we can use new technology. And because it is not open for discussion, everybody and their uncle is not giving advice and wisdom and all. People receive and they keep quiet. They will send me message separately, Arey, open it up, we want to say something. So I'm telling them, please start your own WhatsApp group. I will join and then we will do discussion. But this is a very useful resource and I would urge you to join if you want to know regularly about the island. And finally, I mentioned we've done these two books on the project, which is released. And thanks again to all of you here, to Keraleeyam for giving this platform. This is the first event in Kerala with this book. We are doing a Kochi release tomorrow. I do hope you buy copies of the book for various reasons, to get to know about it. Also, sales contribute to raise funds and help further research. So this is, this is 13 articles by some of the best ecologists and journalists in this country. Some of the most finest writing. There's one piece on this by two ecologists you might have heard of from the Nature Conservation Foundation, T.R. Shankar Raman and Rohan Athar. Shankar Raman is a forest ecologist. He has a plot in Valparaiso. He and his wife do forest regeneration. And there is Rohan Athar, one of India's finest, quietest marine biologists. And they have written a 3,500 piece. It's a scientific piece with references. That is one of the finest philosophical and scientific writings that I have seen. They write about how compensation cannot be done for a forest or for coral reef. They invoke science, they invoke philosophy, they invoke morality. And they say it is the job of scientists like us to raise these questions. We cannot transplant a coral reef as has been proposed. We cannot compensate for a forest because a forest is not trees, a forest is a community. So then there's Rajshekhar's writing He's an investigative journalist who also wrote on the Vantara project. I'm sure the name rings a bell. He has written some fantastic two pieces. I have a couple of pieces. There are other ecologists. So I think the sharpest and the most beautiful and the most incisive writing you will find in this particular book. A year earlier, we did this other book, which is also there, copies are there, which was published by Frontline magazine called The Great Nicobar Betrayal. And that really set the tone. And I must thank Frontline and the Hindu over here because for the last 5 years, as a media house, they have constantly published and followed up. In the early days, when there was not much that was known, the first story that I did was for the Hindu. After that, Frontline did 2 special issues on the Great Nicobar project, and they also published this book. So there is still media, I think there is, of course, there are lots of challenges. But these 2 books together have played a very important role, and both are available. And I would urge you to buy them, if nothing else, to support us, because, like I said, sales will help us raise some funds. But the information in there is short, tightly written, and very, very convincing. So these 2 books we have put out. We are working on a 3rd volume, and the other thing we are trying to do is to do language translations. So of the Great Nicobar Betrayal, we have a Bangla translation and we have a Hindi translation. Tamil translation is almost done. We are working on a Marathi translation, and there is a Tamil translation also of the new book that is under the work. So these are the kind of efforts that we are doing to be able to reach out to other audiences, and it does make a difference because recently Ravish Kumar, a very well-known journalist, after Rahul Gandhi's visit, he did an entire episode on the Great Nicobar project. He spoke about the book, and suddenly there was more interest in the book. But the book had to be there for people to be able to read it. So we are trying to create these resources. I am hopeful here, and I'm sure this question will come up. I think there's a lot to be done in Malayalam also. Maybe translations of articles, maybe fresh writing, maybe translations of the book. I think we can reach out, and there's a huge possibility and there's a huge need. So these are some of the stuff that we have done. And finally, this is some of the other work I have done in the island over the last 30 years. There's a set of 6 books I have done. We have 5 over here for sale. These 2, like you can see, are on the Great Nicobar project. This I could not get. This is a collection of my old journalism. This is a novel I have done 10 years ago, which is based in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And the Nicobar also features in it. It's largely around the Jaagrathayude. So it's based on my research also. But I've tried my hand at novel writing. And this is a book for children. We have copies. It is beautifully illustrated. I mean, more important than the story, it's for about 7 or 8-year group children. It's a story of a little boy whose mother is a total scientist, and she's in the island, and she's taking him out for the first time to see the creatures that he has only heard about. His mother keeps talking to him about turtles, but he has never seen turtles. So in the story, Seema, who's the mother, takes him to one of the nesting sites, and we don't know if she sees turtles. So to know if the little boy sees sea turtles, you have to buy the book. But it's a beautifully illustrated story. And children's book, I think all writers think that we make children's book, but actually it is the illustrators who make children's book. So even if you don't buy the book, have a look at the illustration. This is by Vipin Sketchflow, who's someone from Kerala. Now, he's a very, I don't know who he is, I've never met him. He's a very quiet fellow. But it was found by Curly Tales as the illustrator. So these are the 5 books. In some of 30 years of my work, we brought copies. And so this is Island and Age, like I said, 13 journalists and researchers. And I will finish here. That's my email ID. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you for the institution, this really huge institution that has given me this platform, the honor for this memorial lecture. Like I said, for the platform, for sharing the Nicobar story. It's actually also a request for help. It's a plea for help because unless everybody participates, unless we raise our voice, I don't think we can succeed. The good news in the Great Nicobar project is it has not started on the ground. It's going to be a difficult project to implement. All the clearances have come. We have lost 1 or 2 things in the NGT. The NGT said go ahead. Matters are in the Calcutta High Court. But this is a project, unlike many others, that has not started on the ground. So there is no case of, de facto or post facto clearance and nothing has happened. We've not lost anything. So I think in the last 6 months, we also see that there is a huge upsurge of interest for various reasons. It shows that people care. Lots of students write to me regularly saying we want to do something. These posters that we put up, please have a look. It's by a young zoology student who wrote to me saying she wants to do something. And I said, we have this book called The Great Nicobar Betrayal. Let's make an illustrated guide to the Great Nicobar Betrayal. So she has done, we have 13 chapters. She has done 3 images, 3 illustrations for every chapter. It is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Nothing that I could have ever done. And it has reached out so much. So there is so much that can be done. Translations, social media outreach, research. These are all gaps. Economic, political, ecological, legal, environmental rights, international regulations. All these are gaps. Somebody even has not done a good scientific review of the EI report. There are lies in the EI report. They say migratory birds don't come, but so many migratory birds come to that place. So there's a lot of research that can be done. Water. Imagine 3 lakh people coming to an island where we don't know where the water is going to come from. Port Blair today, in summer, a population of 1.5 lakh people only in Port Blair get water once in 4 days in their taps in summer. Where will the water come from? There is no, so hydrological research, what is the availability, what will happen to waste disposal. There is so much research that can also be done in addition to communication, translation and further outreach. So that is both a big thank you and an invitation to all of you to join in doing something about what is one of the most spectacular places in this country. And thank you so much again for being such a fantastic audience and for the opportunity. Thank you.